So, one question I have about that, because I know some people that have trouble socially,
Yeah.
and but they can communicate with animals
Mm.
because they feel safer that way. I guess because they don't
Mhm.
they can't talk back
Right.
in with language.
Yeah.
So, how do you see the difference there?
So, yeah, that's really good. So we have, I do again have some clients that have trouble in human interactions, but they're with horses and they're a little different, obviously. So, what the animal work does is it really sets the foundation for more focused work. So, if I have someone work with a horse on social cues and things like that, what I then do is I transfer that into another session, and I use a variety of different activities. Um, we might do some role playing. I give them actual tools. So I'm really big into concepts, conceptualizing things, and so I have clients kind of build a tool chest. And so they have these tools that they use for social interactions. And so we might have a session where we work with animals, and then another session where all right, now let's incorporate those tools, and I might do a role play with them. And so then they're learning to incorporate those. And in between sessions, I have them actually practice those things, and then we kind of talk about them in the next session and, monitor their progress and things like that.
So you see a big change in their social climate, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I want to add too is the thing about nature, and this is my own interpretation of what ecotherapy and eco-psychology is nature is boundless. So you don't have four walls. You're kind of in creation, right? So it's about creativity um, and so what that has led me to do actually is it has enhanced my own creativity as a counselor. And so there have been a couple times where I kind of do um, some experimental interventions, like using the tarot cards or things like that. And that has had amazing results because clients are like, wow, this is really fascinating. So if you can do something that's unique and different, it catches their attention. Um, and so it's a testament to using nature in counseling and the benefits to counselors and clients.
Oh. So how does the tarot give you that? I'm
So
not
the
sure.
tarot cards, in the world of counseling, there's something known as subjective tests, like the Rorschach is an example of the ink blot test,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a personality inventory. And there's the one called the thematic apperception test. And you have these cards where a client just basically finishes the story, and you kind of assess their personality and any kind of potential disorders. So what I did is I used that as a kind of an alternative personality inventory, but really it was about creating their own story and using the cards to represent certain aspects of their lives, whether it was the past, the present, some core issues, and then what their future looks like. Now, the tarot cards are very, very rich with symbolism, and um, they're very ancient, so there's a lot of just rich colors and symbols, and very similar to nature. Nature is very rich. There's colors, and it's
Horse poop.
asymmetrical, you know. And so what that does is it tunes the client into the beauty and the miracle that is life. And it sort of gets them more oriented towards just being mindful and noticing details. And I think that's important for any kind of disorders, is just having this awareness and this mindfulness. But anyway, I've had a couple clients, one recently, who was like, I can't believe it, but a couple weeks ago when you brought that fortune card out, well, something magic happened this week, and I ran into a small fortune. So there have been some really interesting results from that, and I think what happens is the clients begin to take ownership. So a story is created before them, and it's a very positive story usually, and they take ownership of that. They realize that they're at the helm. They're the creators of their own story.
Nice.
And that's important. It's so important because with things like depression and anxiety, I think it's really important to use a model that doesn't create dependence on the counselor, something where they can really utilize some tools and take control of their lives.
Oh, so empowerment.
Yeah, empowerment, exactly. And ecotherapy is a really great model for empowering people in a variety of creative ways.
Love that. Must also teach them a little bit about thinking outside the box.
Yes, very much so. Yep, because we are outside of the box and we're taking walks.
Okay. So, do you think there's anything else we've missed that you feel is important for people to know when they're looking at different types of therapy?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that, what ecotherapy has taught me is that a lot of the issues that clients come to me with are issues really that can be controlled by that person, but they don't have the foresight or the knowledge that they are in fact in control. But what they're seeking really is connection. It's a connection to someone that cares, that can listen, and ultimately I think it's a connection to nature, right? And so so just any kind of program that you can find. I mean, the unfortunate thing is that there's not a lot of ecotherapy programs out there, but that doesn't mean you can't go on walks yourself. It does a lot of good. So if I can bring up one other example.
Sure.
So I'm an avid mushroom hunter, and I've taken a couple of clients out on walks and we found mushrooms. I've never seen people so happy to find these mushrooms that they can take home and then they can cook and then they can eat. And what it does is it starts to give them some passion for life. There's I can just go forage for food and cook it, and it creates this joy and sense of ownership. And it's kind of like this human birthright, so people are tapping into something that is really deep. So yes, I mean, there's so many different ways to go with this, and there's so many benefits. It's multifaceted. It's endless. So yeah.
So, you work at Heron Hills in Camas, and sounds like that particular place is growing.
Yeah.
You're taking on more therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see this as a growth towards therapy in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in the last couple of years, it's doubled in size and client load and even the amount of land that they have now. And what's beginning to happen is, in fact, I've had conversations with people in the same field who are starting to really talk about Heron Hill. And I think what's going to happen is the message is going to get out there and people are going to start creating these kinds of programs. I actually did run into a therapist who is in our community who works in an office, but she actually comes here where we're at now to hold
At
some
Tryon Creek?
Tryon Creek to do some of her therapy sessions. So it looks like even if you don't have an actual, 70-acre farm, you can still make it happen. So I think more therapists are gonna probably start doing that once they see how successful it is.
So, any closing words about nature-based therapy?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of beyond words. The benefits are pretty clear. I think it's amazing that, this is something that I realized as a benefit early on and just kind of couldn't find any programs, but just found one. And it's kind of like a dream job for many therapists because it's healing for both clients and therapists. And that's very, very key, actually, because what you find in the industry is a lot of burnout, a lot of compassion fatigue and things like that. But in this kind of setting, the therapist can thrive, and when the therapist thrives, the patient thrives. It's a two-way street. So yeah, that's my closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Panic,
Yeah.
for talking to us today about this really important therapy. And that's it.
Okay.